Breaking tonight, Donald Trump says the U.S. will take control and own Gaza.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too.
The U.S. president says Palestinians should be permanently moved out and gives his vision for the future of the Strip.
I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something.
Trump's stunning comments as he hosts the Israeli prime minister. Also tonight, Trump's tariffs against Canada are on hold, but the pressure is on.
Nobody thinks this is solved by any stretch.
With billions of dollars on the line, the urgent push to convince the president to back off. And the life and legacy of the Aga Khan, spiritual leader to millions of Ismaili Muslims around the world.
He saw Canada as a model for the world.
The honorary Canadian's deep connection to this country.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news from the White House, where Donald Trump is now saying he wants the U.S. to take control of Gaza and the Palestinians who live there permanently resettled elsewhere. Trump's comments came in a news conference late tonight alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump insisting the U.S. will redevelop the Strip in what he called a long-term ownership position. Now, all of this is unfolding in the midst of a very fragile ceasefire agreement. Paul Hunter starts us off with Trump's bombshell announcement.
Private talks completed. U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu walked out onto the stage for a formal news conference. From Trump, a bombshell on the future of the Gaza Strip, now devastated by the Hamas-Israel war. Trump's idea?
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
And, he said, the U.S. would clear Gaza of rubble and bombs, then develop it, creating, he said, thousands of jobs.
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East.
All of that following a series of remarkable comments from Trump at separate events in the White House earlier. At his desk in the Oval Office, his view on Gaza now broadly.
What do they have? It is a big pile of rubble right now. I mean, have you seen the pictures of it? Have you been there? It's terrible.
The nearly 2 million Palestinians displaced by the war, he said, would love to leave Gaza if they had an option. Trump suggesting they all be moved to a piece of land or a number of pieces in Egypt or Jordan, even though both countries have publicly rejected such an idea.
And you'd have people living in a place that could be very beautiful and safe and nice. Gaza's been a disaster for decades.
Trump later suggesting any number of countries could take them in, up to a dozen, he said. With the Hamas-Israel ceasefire holding, at least for now, but as it moves toward its so-called Phase 2, in which Israeli soldiers are meant to fully withdraw from Gaza, the comments could hardly come at a more critical time for the region. As he underlined at a photo op with Netanyahu, relocating Gaza's Palestinians would be permanent.
It's worth paying attention to this.
From Netanyahu, standing next to Trump throughout, this.
I think it's something that could change history, and it's worthwhile really pursuing this avenue.
On his plan, said Trump, Adrienne, what we know as the Gaza Strip would indeed become, as he put it, the Riviera of the Middle East, and would be for the world's people, without really giving more detail on that. He gave no position on the future of the West Bank, by the way, but said he'd have an announcement on that soon.
So, Paul, this shocking proposal by Trump is sure to get a whole bunch of reaction. What are you hearing so far?
Yeah, shocker indeed. I mean, I think it's fair to say this has caught the world by surprise. Multiple countries have suggested in the past that moving Palestinians from Gaza would only make the situation in the Middle East worse. The Saudis have reacted to some of what Trump said today. Earlier, he told reporters the Saudis are no longer demanding Palestinians have a state of their own. Tonight, the Saudis strongly disagreed with that, underlining their position on a state for Palestinians is unnegotiable, firm, and unwavering, and it will not establish ties with Israel, something Trump is pushing for, without one. Certainly, there will be more fallout from Trump's idea going forward, Adrienne, but a shocker tonight.
Indeed. Paul Hunter in Washington. Thanks, Paul. Well, Donald Trump's threats to impose massive tariffs on Canada may be on pause tonight, but the threat is still very real. Canada is now in a one-month holding pattern, but as Kate McKenna shows us, Canadian officials aren't waiting to make their case.
Canada may have turned the corner, but the Prime Minister says the threat isn't over.
We still have to stay strong as Canadians and be proud of being Canadians. There's a lot of work to do over the next month.
One day after U.S. President Donald Trump put a one-month pause on his tariffs, much focus is here, the nearly 9,000-kilometer border between Canada and the United States.
There's a lot at stake here. This is not naive. This is real. This is the largest economic relationship in the world.
The public safety minister promoted Canada's $1.5 billion border plan, which includes new helicopters and drones and plans to crack down on fentanyl. His message is aimed at Canadians and the Oval Office.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, well, there's a short-term freeze with Mexico, as you know, and with Canada. But they've agreed to be very, very strong on the border, stronger than they ever were by far, by a factor of about 30.
Canadian officials are already back in Washington lobbying.
I want to be very clear about this. Just like the U.S., Canada has no interest in illegal crossings, either of people or of substances.
Now, I've seen a change of tone since I was there last week, because now it's American folks who said, you know what? These tariff things, could really hurt our industries and our states.
The uncertainty is there. Nobody thinks this is solved by any stretch.
This business advocate says even a lingering threat can be as taxing on industry as a tariff.
Investors, businesses will be really, really reluctant to move money, to invest money, given the uncertainty over our heads.
Some industry experts fear Canada's trade relationship with the U.S. may have changed for good.
We will no longer have agreements that last decades. Any agreement, any handshake is probably worth a day, a week, a year.
Senior federal sources say Canada is already looking ahead to what could be the next round of negotiations in 1 month's time. But it's unclear at this point what would dissuade the president. He's been on the record many times saying he loves tariffs.
Indeed. And Kate, there's also the question of Canada's reliance on its trade relationship with the United States. You know, does Canada try to diversify its trading partners a bit? What would that take?
What it would take is time, and pretty much everyone agrees it would take longer than 30 days. 3/4 of our exports go to the United States, and our supply chains are very interconnected. One expert I spoke with suggests it'd take at least a decade and a big push to diversify.
Okay, good to know. Kate McKenna in Ottawa. So in her report, Kate mentioned a crackdown on fentanyl. In order to do that, Canada is promising to create a so-called fentanyl czar. Catherine Cullen now with more on what that job could entail.
We have to stop fentanyl.
Donald Trump has a lot of gripes about Canada, but he keeps coming back to fentanyl.
It's pouring in from China through Mexico and Canada, and they've got to stop it. And if they don't stop it, the tariffs are going to get worse, a lot worse.
So Monday, sources say Canadian officials pitched Trump for the first time on a fentanyl czar.
The integrity of our borders.
As they show off their tools to fight illicit drugs.
So now it's alarming, right?
Behind the scenes, they're trying to figure out what precisely the czar will do, beyond trying to reassure the president. The public safety minister says the job requires working with police, the justice system, and other countries.
Fentanyl czar role will be involved in helping to pull all of this together so we can get over any hurdles and execute on a plan that involves minimizing, if not eliminating, fentanyl from Canadian soil.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith had recently suggested a border czar, but the premier, often at odds with the federal government, likes this idea too.
We have one prime minister who's not going to be there in 33 days, and then a new prime minister who might only be there for another 33 days, and then a new prime minister after that. We need to have a consistent voice through this period to demonstrate that we're making real progress on it.
A senior federal source says the czar could be someone in uniform or ex-police. With Trump giving Canada 1 month to, quote, alleviate the crisis, the new czar will have to hit the ground running.
We're looking here at a very short window of opportunity to demonstrate to our neighbors to the south and the president that we're taking this very seriously.
It's not clear exactly how Trump will measure success. though Canadians would certainly welcome an improvement in the overdose crisis that has enveloped much of the country for years.
It's actually troubling that the government is now reacting when, in fact, we've all seen what fentanyl has done to some segments of our society.
And the government has said it wants to make progress on the border and drugs, particularly because it's good for Canadians. But with the intensity of this latest effort, it's clear it's fueled by Trump's tariffs.
And so, Catherine, all of this is happening in a very short time frame.
Yeah, Adrian, given that the job description is still being sorted out, it's hard to know how quickly we'll see results. A key aim from the Canadian government's point of view is better information sharing with the United States. But there's very little time to, for example, see an increase in arrests. As for who actually gets the job, the public safety minister says there will be more to say about that by the end of the week.
All right, Catherine Cullen in Ottawa, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, as part of the deal with Trump, the Prime Minister also committed to designating Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations. While the scope of their reach is unclear, there is some strong evidence that cartels are operating in Canada. Thomas Daigle now on the transnational threat within.
This is what police say Mexican drug cartels are slipping into Canada. $83 million worth of cocaine, destined for every corner of the country, and recently traced to a murderous cartel making inroads here.
They were prominent. I mean, if you look at what we have here right now, this is a large load.
In a new pledge, the Prime Minister announced Ottawa will list cartels as terrorists, just one of the efforts to ward off U.S. tariffs, as the Trump administration issues this fresh warning.
The Mexican drug cartels are rapidly expanding in Canada, and that's a danger.
Cartels are known to smuggle truckloads of drugs across the U.S. border and into Canada. But a recent bust in B.C. suggests they're also producing enough here to send abroad. At this super lab, police say the chemicals seized would have amounted to nearly 100 million doses of fentanyl.
The fact that they are here, I will say thriving, it is dangerous for sure.
Journalist Luis Najera investigated the cartels in Mexico and fled to Canada. He sees their growing influence here, with criminal groups exploiting Pacific and Atlantic ports and laundering millions.
It has been significantly increasing, of course, because of the advantages that Canada offers.
But experts wonder what help will come now, with a trail of murders left behind, including the cartel-linked shooting of an innocent Indian couple in Ontario, still unresolved.
The benefit of designating the cartels is primarily a political one in terms of appeasing Trump and signaling to our American allies that we are willing to play ball.
The public safety minister insists the move will help authorities track the cartel's money and disrupt their operations once they're listed as terrorist groups alongside ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, President Trump has also now imposed tariffs on Chinese imports. China, meanwhile, is threatening to hit back. Beijing says it will levy a 15% tariff on coal and liquefied natural gas and a 10% tariff on crude, farm equipment, and some vehicles. A new across-the-board 10% tariff kicked in on Chinese goods entering the U.S. today. Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are expected to talk this week. And President Trump says he's considering sending violent American convicts to this place, a 40,000 inmate mega jail in El Salvador. That country's president is offering to accept the criminals along with U.S. deportees in exchange for a fee. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called the offer generous, but warns it raises clear legal issues. He says ultimately Donald Trump will decide whether to accept the deal. The Aga Khan, spiritual leader and billionaire philanthropist, has died. Prince Karim al-Husseini was the 4th Aga Khan and the 49th hereditary imam of the Shia Ismaili Muslims. For decades, he led an estimated 15 million believers worldwide. Treated as a head of state, he helped people in poverty across the globe. He died in Portugal, surrounded by family at the age of 88. Haver Gould shows us the immense impact he had over many decades and his connections to Canada.
Say good morning, His Highness.
Good morning, His Highness.
Prince Karim Aga Khan being greeted by school children in Kenya. The school, just one of many he helped create. He opened hospitals too in Afghanistan and elsewhere, bringing medical services to people who had none. And when Pakistan was hit by a powerful earthquake in 2005, the Aga Khan flew into a devastated community to help rebuild.
And I hope that all together we can bring in new technologies of construction so that inshallah your homes, your civil society buildings will be safer in the decades ahead.
He was just 20 years old when he became the 49th hereditary Imam of the Shia Ismaili Muslims after the death of his grandfather, with responsibilities for a population scattered across 25 countries. He was himself a man of many countries, a British citizen. He was born in Geneva, educated at Harvard in the US, and competed in the Olympics for Iran. Over time, the Aga Khan became one of the most connected figures on the planet. His high-level contacts helping clear the way and raise funds for billions of dollars in projects.
I do pay attention to detail because I think ultimately one should address an issue once and try and get it right, and not have to come back because you've been slipshod or because you haven't taken into account something which you could have foreseen.
His link to Canada was cemented in 1972. That's when dictator Idi Amin abruptly expelled Ismailis from Uganda. The Aga Khan asked Canada, through his friend then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, to help. Canada took in thousands of refugees, a gesture the Aga Khan never forgot. Decades later, the Trudeau family friendship led to an expensive scandal for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau when he vacationed on the Aga Khan's private island in the Caribbean. The Aga Khan often seemed disappointed by the way the West viewed both him and Islam, but he didn't let that hold him back as he championed education and understanding, and the tolerance that he said was essential to the very survival of the world. Howard Gould, CBC News, Toronto.
And the Aga Khan is indeed being remembered across the world tonight, but especially by the millions for whom he was the only spiritual leader they've ever known. Jamie Strachan shows us the outpouring in Toronto, a city with a special place in his legacy.
As news of the Aga Khan's passing spread, a line of cars slowly flowed into Toronto's Ismaili Centre, a chance to be together, to pray and to reflect.
It's a sad day for a person my entire life we have known and has done nothing but great things for the world and for the community, and we're all here to pay respects.
An overflow crowd of more than 2,000 expected.
We've been here 50 years, and to have this legacy that he's given us, it's unbelievable that we've made this many strides in this country.
A major part of his legacy, the Aga Khan Museum here in Toronto, a chance to reflect on Muslim contributions to history and the arts, and to connect with the wider world. In Ottawa, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reflected on his impact.
His Highness the Aga Khan was an extraordinarily compassionate global leader, a man of vision, of faith, and of incredible generosity.
Canada's former ambassador to Afghanistan and Jordan, Arif Lalani, worked closely with the Aga Khan.
He saw Canada as a model for the world. He saw it as one of the most pluralistic, compassionate countries in the world that others should aspire to.
The Ismailis refer to their place of worship as a Jamaat Khana, a place to come together, now to remember a man whose impact ran deep. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
There's shock in Sweden tonight in the aftermath of a deadly shooting. What we know so far about what's being called the country's worst mass shooting. Next. Plus, in the face of uncertainty, how can Canada's auto industry protect itself?
I'm sure there will be some adjustments to supply chain to make it as solid as possible.
And later, something a little gentler, their very first winter wonderland.
You could tell that they were really excited.
Some Vancouver sea otters get a new frosty friend. We're back in 2. The remains of all 67 victims from last Wednesday's mid-air collision in Washington, D.C. have now been recovered. Crews also removed parts of the plane's cockpit and another engine from the Potomac River. A regional jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided above the busy Reagan National Airport. Well, in Sweden, a major investigation is underway into what's being called the worst mass shooting in the country's history. As you're about to see, a gunman opened fire at a school for adults, killing around 10 people. Margaret Evans now with what more we know tonight.
People being ushered away from the scene of the shooting. The panic it spread, captured on this video recording. Police were first alerted to the shooting just after midday, arriving to a scene of carnage, the gunman believed to be among the dead. By nightfall, all the buildings had been cordoned off. The guy next to me was shot, says Marwa, a student and eyewitness. When I looked behind me, I saw 3 people on the floor bleeding. Everyone was shocked. They said, "Go out, get out." The local chief of police gave a briefing on the suspect. He's not known to the police from before, he says, and has no gang affiliations. What we believe is that he was a lone perpetrator. Sweden's image is often one of calm tranquility, but gang-related violence has given it one of the highest homicide rates in Europe. Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson spoke of bottomless sadness, calling it the worst mass shooting in Swedish history. Today we have seen a brutal, deadly violence against completely innocent people, he says. There are still a lot of answers missing. I'm angry and shocked, says Chia Sandel. This shouldn't have happened. Schools should be safe for children and adults. These things shouldn't happen in Sweden or anywhere. Örebro is a city about 200 kilometers west of Stockholm, but all of Sweden is mourning. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Even with a pause on tariffs for now, there's still great anxiety among automakers.
We're going to have to look at trading with other partners, but at the end of the day, I hope we don't have to go there.
Why some say it is about time for a rethink just to safeguard the industry. Plus, the growing fear as Donald Trump takes aim at trans people in the United States.
I didn't think so much was going to happen so fast and it would be so bad.
Katie Nicholson speaks with some looking to Canada for refuge. And the fight to clear a Manitoba man's name 5 decades after he was convicted of murder.
Russell was convicted because he was forced to put his signature to a false confession.
The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. Well, it's a snow day for parts of BC's Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island, and many are still digging out from yesterday. Several schools and campuses were closed, commuters being asked to reconsider driving until roads are clear. Well, Canada's auto industry is still grappling with the threat of Donald Trump's tariffs. They may be on pause right now, but as Lisa Shing shows us, the concerns for the cross-border industry are still very real tonight.
Uncertainty looms over the border city of Detroit, known as the Motor City for a reason. U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs paused but not canceled.
I don't know nothing about it. I just hope they figure it out.
It's just affecting, obviously, everyday life, which is hard.
We never had a problem with the north borders. It was the south.
On the other side of this river, Windsor, Ontario, 2 cities working as one with parts suppliers and assembly plants on either side. So integrated, a single car will cross the Canada-U.S. border multiple times in the manufacturing process. Tariffs would amplify production costs and ultimately prices for the consumer. Considering trade tensions, some in the industry say automakers need a backup plan, even though most agree the current arrangement is working.
We're going to have to look at trading with other partners, but at the end of the day, I hope we don't have to go there.
Well, I think they'll listen.
Industry groups in Michigan are thinking the same.
I'm sure there will be some adjustments to supply chain to make it as solid as possible.
Does that mean looking elsewhere other than Canada?
Well, I hope not. That means they need to localize things more. They may have to do that.
By localize, he means moving manufacturing to the U.S., but dismantling a decades-long partnership won't be easy.
It's not feasible, and the reality is the U.S. does depend on Canada and Mexico for a significant component of not just vehicle parts manufacturing, but final assembly.
The auto companies just can't change overnight and decide they're going to start building plants here and there and laying off workers.
There's another consideration in all of this. Analysts say the North American auto industry is much stronger together, and if that relationship is eroded or severed, it could give competitors like China a major advantage. Lisa Sheng, CBC News, Detroit.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. A family's fight to have the name of a Manitoba First Nations man cleared posthumously.
The racism in the criminal justice system was overwhelming.
3 others convicted in the same case already exonerated. But first, trans people in the U.S. and their families consider some tough decisions as Donald Trump signs new policy changes.
I didn't think so much was going to happen so fast and it would be so bad.
Some are now looking at the possibility of moving to Canada. One of those families now lives in Minnesota. Katie Nicholson traveled there to meet them and to see why they're worried and how they're preparing.
Protect trans kids!
When Kelly's son Ollie came out as trans, she became a fierce advocate.
When you're not strong!
That advocacy has taken her to a small Minnesota town.
Welcome to the house.
A home for young people trying to get on their feet.
They have their own set of towels.
Many of those who stay here likely to be queer or trans.
It is volunteer weekend. We're calling it Furnishings and Finishings Weekend.
A big community effort in a country rolling back much of what they fought for.
This is a way that we can show up and we can show these young people that they're not alone and that no matter what the federal government is saying, that there are people that support them, that have their back.
Kelly knows a thing or two about living in a place that has your back. It's why she and her family moved here a year and a half ago.
We can joke like, oh yeah, we're refugees from Florida. We fled Florida. We uprooted our family because it did not feel safe for us to stay there, right? It didn't feel like a flippant choice that we made and let's go live in the freezing cold of Minnesota from the beaches of Florida.
We aren't using Kelly's last name or saying exactly where her family lives because of their safety concerns. One of Kelly's children, Ollie, is trans.
Essentially, we were kicked out of our church and our school. And so that was beginning of high school. And then, of course, Mama Bear comes out, and I became a fierce advocate and ally for my kid and for the queer community at large.
That advocacy caught the attention of a conservative group.
And they just came after us, and it felt scary and threatening. And my husband served in the Marines, very much believes in protecting his family, felt like he couldn't do that and that we all had targets on our backs. So for my husband, he will tell you that that was his turning point. So at that point, that's when we said it's time to go. I mean, of course I knew it was traumatizing. Of course I knew how hard it was for our children to leave Florida and everything they knew. But election night, whew, my 11-year-old started crying and she said, does this mean we're gonna have to move again?
You actually feel safe. For Ollie, moving to Minnesota meant just being able to walk down the street without fear.
I noticed people's body language and the way they were looking at me or weren't looking at me really. It felt different, it did. Yeah, a cultural difference, it felt like. It's a really good thing. We feel safer.
Or he did. The Trump administration's rollback of trans rights has been swift, beginning on day one.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
Other orders followed, defunding gender-affirming care for youth, banning trans people from serving in the military, even requiring federal staff to remove pronouns from email signatures.
The last couple of weeks, the inauguration speech, the executive orders, how has that left you feeling?
It's left me feeling pretty scared and uncertain, and I didn't think it was going to happen so fast. I didn't think so much was going to happen so fast and it would be so bad.
Ollie doesn't want to have to move again, but if he starts to feel unsafe, he's keeping his options open.
Where are you looking?
Mainly Canada because it's so close, and we've heard that the protections are better for people like us, or at least not so hostile. So Canada is probably the top of the list.
To qualify for asylum in Canada, you must prove a well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group, which includes LGBTQ+ people.
Is it weird, I mean, to sort of be thinking about leaving America, to have considered that?
It's so dystopian. We're living the Handmaid's Tale. Like, how is this the United States of America? Words come out of my mouth, and in my head, I'm like, this can't be real. This can't, right? It's so bizarre. We're in the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world. And its citizens are looking at asylum in other countries. Make it make sense.
Batista Migration Law Group.
In this Toronto law firm, dozens of calls a day since inauguration, mostly from trans Americans.
I've just been working through a bit of a backlog.
Lawyer Joyce Nakang says the Trump administration's slew of executive orders targeting trans people might allow them to claim asylum.
Typically, those claims have been hard because what you have to prove is that the state is unwilling or unable to protect you and that there's nowhere else in your country that you can go and live safely. Now, with these changes that have been happening and these orders that have been now passed down, I think we're seeing a lot clearer picture of the state being the agent of persecution.
And there's another issue. Because the federal government will only recognize two genders, Americans who may not look like the gender on their passport or who have the gender-neutral X marker are now afraid to cross the border.
We don't know if that just means increased scrutiny at the border or if it means a denial of entry or potentially confiscation of those documents.
Elliot Duvall is one of those Americans caught in documentation limbo.
I'm scared to go back because, one, that my passport still says a female on it. It still says a female on it, and I don't look anything like a female. So to hand over my passport to the border guards is terrifying. And they're just gonna question me down to the bone. And I don't think I'd mentally be able to handle that, to be honest. I would just cry.
Elliot grew up in Wisconsin and Arkansas, but 12 years ago, fell in love with a Canadian and started a family in London. But he misses his family back home.
My mom, she wants me to come desperately bad. And this was the year that I was supposed to be going, like, I was gonna go for Thanksgiving, we were gonna try to make it for Christmas, all of us. And she said, don't come. And that's hard. It's hard when my mom, who, you know, she watches the news, when she's like, don't come because it's not safe. That's really hard. Hi, Mom. How are you?
How are you? How's Daisy? How's Krista?
One family separated, another family very much together as they face an uncertain future. Dad Jim, the ex-Marine, tries to focus on the positive.
We're also, I think, seeing our strength from each other and seeing how, you know, yeah. It's just, you know, it's easy to try to defend all the time, but to be, you know, to try to create and find the goodness, you know, every day.
Yeah. What's clear, whatever happens next, wherever they may go, they'll be united in their love.
So, Katie, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I know these aren't the only people you spoke with in terms of these orders.
You know, in our research, we talked to a lot of Americans who are just too afraid to go on camera, who are sort of in this boat right now. Mm-hmm. I think particularly of this one mother in a Midwestern state. She's got a go bag packed, ready to go, full of medication, documentation, burner phones. She's even lined up an address here in Canada in case the family has to flee. So it really speaks to that atmosphere of fear. But at the same time, what really struck me when I was in Minnesota was how many members of the community really kind of rallied around Ollie and Kelly. This man just walked up to Kelly and said, listen, if your family needs anything, any support, protection, we got you. And so that was also surprising because you see people who are outside the trans community offering their support.
Well, that would mean a lot to them. It's hard to keep track, but it seems that there have been roughly half a dozen orders and actions taken so far directly affecting trans people in the U.S., and I gather more to come?
Yeah, so most recently, this is a Trump campaign promise. He is signing an executive order that will effectively ban transgender girls and women from competing in female sporting events. The other thing is, there have been a number of court challenges filed for these orders, and you can expect there will be many more of those to come as well.
All right, Katie Nicholson, thank you. Coming up, more than a decade after his death, his family is still trying to clear his name from a murder conviction half a century ago.
Racism in the criminal justice system was overwhelming.
A family's long fight for justice in Manitoba. That's next. Manitoba First Nations men have recently won decades-long fights for exoneration. One of them hopes his dead brother will receive that as well.
I'd be happy to clear his name.
Waiting now for a ministerial review to correct the record and close a painful chapter. Caitlin Gowerlock shows us a quest for justice 50 years in the making.
Today, Clarence Woodhouse spends his time with his family, teaching his grandson Soto. His language that's formed an important part of his story and helped prove his innocence in a crime he always said he didn't do. Last year, he became one of 3 men exonerated in a 1973 murder. But for Clarence's family, the journey isn't over. His brother, Russell Woodhouse, was convicted of manslaughter in the same case. Russell's name could soon be cleared too, more than a decade after he died. His family is waiting for a final decision from Canada's Justice Minister.
I'd be happy to clear his name.
They were part of a group of 4 young men from Penamutang First Nation convicted of killing 40-year-old Ting Fong Chan. Chan was fatally beaten and stabbed one night as he walked home from work.
Russell Woodhouse was still just a teenager when he was arrested in 1973. And growing up here in Penamutang First Nation, he spoke mostly Soto or Ojibwe. But like the other men charged in the case, he was convicted based largely on a police confession supposedly given in fluent English, even though he barely spoke the language.
Russell was convicted because he was forced to put his signature to a false confession in a language that he did not speak.
Just one of the red flags for the group that has spent years working to exonerate the men. From an investigation that zeroed in on the young men with no evidence linking them to the crime, to police brutality, and ultimately a trial that Innocence Canada's James Lockyer says was marred by systemic racism at every turn.
You'd think in 1974 things would have been better than this, but they weren't. The racism in the criminal justice system was overwhelming.
Hi, Alvin.
Oh, hi.
Decades before Innocence Canada got involved, the chief of the men's community sounded the alarm. But Alvin Thompson's calls in the 1970s were ignored. With a small group of supporters, he tried to bring attention to the case, but no one was listening.
Not the court system, not the police, no one. No, it was a dead-end case in every which way. we turned.
Brian Anderson was one of the men finally declared innocent in the case recently. For him, exoneration felt good, but it isn't enough. The years he spent in prison, that time he missed with his family.
Like, apology just doesn't do it. Like, I can't put apology into my bank account.
But the Woodhouse family is still waiting to hear that apology one last time. While Clarence was exonerated this past October, Russell is, for now, still considered guilty. But that's not how Clarence and his family remember him.
Very nice, kind, loving. The laughter. The jokes. No. Yeah. I'm gonna miss those times.
Unlike the other men involved in the case, Russell Woodhouse won't be around to see his name cleared. He died of cancer in 2011 and is buried here in his home community of Penamutang First Nation. His case is being looked at by the federal government. Innocence Canada says it's the first time a justice minister is reviewing the case of a person who's died. A Justice Department spokesperson says the review of Russell's conviction is ongoing, but wouldn't give more details. An exoneration would mean the world to Russell's family, and they know it would to him, too.
We would have been happy, yeah.
One more step towards closing a painful chapter in their family's story.
And Caitlin, as the family waits to see what will happen in this case, there is this troubling connection, it seems, with some other criminal cases.
That's right, Adrian. It turns out the prosecutor in this case was also the prosecutor in a number of other notable criminal trials in Manitoba. Those included 4 men whose convictions from the 1980s and 90s were later either quashed or set aside. Those wrongful convictions led to 2 separate provincial inquiries. That prosecutor died in 2023, and meanwhile, Innocence Canada says it's now looking for a national review of homicides where Indigenous people were convicted.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. That's Caitlin Gowerluck in Winnipeg tonight. Coming up, a pair of orphaned sea otter pups discover snow for the very first time.
Whee! Timber!
Their rescue story and their excitement next in our moment. So you are looking at the stars of the Vancouver Aquarium, Tofino and Luna. These are sea otter pups who were both found abandoned in the wild last summer. Well, they've since become an inseparable pair, and over the weekend they experienced their very first snowfall and snowman, and together their winter wonderland is our moment.
Whee! Timber! This summer, we rescued 2 orphaned baby otters for Tofino and Luna. They were found without a mom, so we made the decisions to bring them in. We had the first big snowfall. I took no time to build a snowman for them, so I knew they would love it. And they got the pleasure to play with it and knock it over. They were a little bit hesitant initially because it was pretty much bigger than them, but Tofino didn't take long for pushing it over for sure. I don't know if it's because they're so fuzzy or if they're so playful or the vocals that they do is so cute, but they definitely capture the heart of most people. Just by body language, you could tell that they were really excited. They were very curious. Sea otters have one of the densest fur in the animal kingdom, so they really enjoy anything that's cold. When it snows outside, they love to roll around in it and play in it because they love that cold feeling. They're definitely one of the cutest animals that I have the pleasure to work with.
So in the event you feel like maybe 2025 is a bit of a, I don't know, rough start to this year, and you're looking for a little bit of break, Vancouver Aquarium has a live sea otter cam that just runs all the time. You can just look it up on YouTube and just like watch them go and tune everything else out. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.